Hey guys, welcome to the Eerie Side Podcast with your hosts, Dee,
Elena,
and Sophia.
We appreciate you guys, and I hope you're ready to get on the eerie side. Before we get into the show, we would appreciate if you could all give the podcast a follow and make sure the bell notification is turned on so you'll be notified when we drop an episode. If you enjoy the show, we would love to have you leave us a review. And if there's a case suggestion or any feedback you'd like to share, feel free to send us a message in the text box below. Share the podcast with family, friends, coworkers, or really anyone you think will enjoy it. Please follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Today I'm going to do a story on Leigh Marine Occhi, who was born on August 21st, 1979 in Honolulu, Hawaii. Her father was Donald Occhi and her mother was Vicky Felton, and both were members of the United States Army. The couple met while serving in California and married in 1977. The couple eventually divorced in 1981. Donald Occhi remained in the Army while Vicky Felton left the military to work for a manufacturing company. Donald Occhi relocated to Germany but remained in contact with his daughter who visited him there. Leigh Occhi resided in the United States with her mother, where they settled in Tupelo, Mississippi. On the morning of August 27, 1992, Leigh was 13 years old. She awoke to the sound of her mother, Vicky Felton, getting ready for work. The dark threat of Hurricane Andrew was hovering over the quiet town of Tupelo, Mississippi. The blonde, horse-loving 8th grader was in her final days of summer break and scheduled to attend an open house at her new middle school with her grandparents later that day. Her mother departed for her job at approximately between 7:40 to 8 a.m. Now, at this particular time, her father resides in Virginia. If you notice, the times are not very accurate because it's a big 20-minute distance as to when she exactly left work, which I find suspicious. I looked at many different articles and they all said between 7:40, some said 7:40, some said 8 o'clock. It is very interesting that it doesn't seem like there's a consistent time that she left. I'm wondering if the police have not released the real time for a reason. I don't know. You also notice another discrepancy with time as I go on.
Yeah. And her father's in Virginia now?
Her father is residing in Virginia now.
Okay, so now he's no longer in Germany.
No, but he is still part of the military. Now, Leigh was staying home alone unsupervised for the first time that morning. Hurricane Andrew had been downgraded to a tropical storm, but there was a strong band of rain coming through Tupelo shortly into Felton's work shift. She called home to inform her daughter and to check on her sometime before 8:30 to 9 a.m. Again, another discrepancy of time. There was no answer. Her mother became worried. She left work and rushed back home. She drove approximately 1.5 miles, which is 2.4 kilometers, back to her home, which is really not that much of a distance. According to her mother, when she returned home, she found the garage door open and the light on. Her mother thought that was very strange because the light doesn't turn on unless someone triggers the door.
Like someone opens the door or just motion sensors?
According to her, it says until someone triggers the door. So one of the doors has to open.
Okay.
I don't know really what that means because if the garage door is open, the light turns itself off nowadays. But we are talking about 1990s. But usually the garage door light does turn off after a while when you open the garage. Mm-hmm. I don't know if this really matters or they had an old garage door. I have no idea.
Right.
What time did her mother arrive at the house?
I'm not sure what time she arrived approximately, but it says that she actually called to reach her between 8:30 to 9 a.m.
How old is Leigh at this point?
13, and her mother only works 1.5 miles away, so it doesn't take long for her to get
And
there.
where was Leigh working or supposed to be working today?
Leigh was not supposed to be working. It was part of school day, but I'm not sure if they canceled school because of the hurricane, but they were supposed to go to the open house of the school. Of the new
Okay, but her
school.
mother was the one who left sometime between 7:40 and 8.
Correct.
Okay.
Inside the house, Felton called out for Leigh. A quick search produced no sign of the girl, but then Felton spotted smears of blood on the hallway walls. Panicking, she approached Leigh's room. She found small pools of blood on the floor outside her door and even more on the door frame. A bloodied nightgown was tossed in the clothes hamper. Leigh's favorite blanket was crumpled up on the floor. As she continued through the house more desperately this time, she found more blood near the back door. She was getting scared. She checked outside, didn't see Leigh, then called 911 at approximately 8:30 to 9 a.m. So police rushed to the scene and found no signs of forced entry. Inside the home, police found more traces of blood in the bathroom. Tupelo Police Captain Bart Aguirre told CNN the following. It was pretty obvious to us that someone tried to clean up the scene or the countertop, but we couldn't find the rag or towel that had been used. We couldn't find it anywhere. Furthermore, they found additional pools of blood in Occhi's upstairs bedroom, as well as significant portions smeared on the hallway and on her bedroom door. Furthermore, inside the laundry hamper in the house, detectives did discover the bloodied nightgown belonging to Leigh. Chief Aguirre stated, because it looked like the blood had dripped down onto her nightgown, you would think the injury had to be above the neck, possibly. Tests later revealed that all the blood in the home was type O, which is Leigh's blood type. The house showed no signs again of forced entry. Her mother claimed that several of her daughter's articles of clothing were missing, which were shoes, a pair of shorts, a new pair of underwear she received for her birthday, her glasses, and a sleeping bag. If not for all the blood, it would have seemed that Leigh Occhi had simply run away. Neighbors hadn't seen or heard anything. Immediately following Leigh's disappearance, organized searches were conducted around Tupelo, mainly through wooded areas. A team of bloodhounds searched the neighborhood, running through nearby fields and ditches, but they picked up no trace of young Leigh. It was hard to tell if the heavy rains were washing away any scent of the girl or if there was simply none to be found in the area. Searches in and around Tupelo proved fruitless. Donald Occhi, which is Leigh's father, received a phone call from Vicky on August 28th, and she said to him that Leigh is missing. He said to her, "What the hell do you mean? Did she run away? What happened?" He also was interviewed by true crime blogger Anthony Wayne, and he said, "I had no idea there was blood and stuff like that." The day after it happened, all she said was Leigh was missing. A couple of days later, she called with the details of the blood and everything else. Donald Occhi soon secured leave from the Army post in Alexandria, Virginia, and joined the search efforts. Her father, Donald, felt that his daughter was dead the day his ex-wife called him and told him she was missing. His theory is that some bastard beat that child to death in that house. This coward must have really felt like a tough man or woman to beat a little girl to death. Often he cannot but think of how horrified Leigh must have been while this piece of garbage beat her to death and watched her bleed out in the hall. He also stated that while searching for his daughter in Tupelo in September of 1992, he was told by several locals to look at her mother. However, he commented, "I already was doing that. I don't know if her mother was involved." Additionally, rumors circulated alleging that Leigh's stepfather, Barney Yarborough, whom her mother had recently separated from, was abusive toward Leigh. Yarborough was ruled out by law enforcement after providing a substantiated alibi and passing a polygraph examination. After Yarborough passed his polygraph examination, Felton was administered 3 separate examinations, one with local law enforcement and 2 with the FBI. Independent examiners stated she showed deception on all of them. In 2017, Aguirre stated that Vicky Felton was still considered a person of interest. She failed the tests 3 times. You still can't eliminate her.
It was the lie detector, right?
Right.
That's crazy to fill it 3 times.
Correct. And 2 times with the FBI.
But lie detectors are considered junk science at this point. They're not really reliable. So I don't know if you can put much stock in it.
It's possible that if you're nervous, that can have an effect on there. But I will say it's more accurate if you're just like a normal person going in versus a psychopath who can manipulate and control their heart rate and their breathing and all that stuff. I do know that they're not like super credible, but it is interesting that all 3 times she consistently failed.
I think at the end of the day, if it's not even science that could be held up.
Was it all the questions?
I have no idea. And don't forget, she is not being accused or arrested of anything, okay? So now the chief doesn't feel you can eliminate her. He said there are still too many unanswered questions for Vicky. And I don't know if that is unusual for somebody to go off to work and say, well, I just left Leigh, but I'm going to call and check on her. Why check on her that soon after she left her? I'm not sure I agree with him with this, but he seems that it all happened too soon.
She too quickly panicked and decided to go home.
Right, exactly.
I was wondering that, but I mean, there could be a whole range of scenarios as to why she wanted to check on her. I did wonder how come she didn't call her grandparents first to say, I haven't heard from her. Can you go and check on her?
I don't know where her grandparents lived. I don't know all the details.
Wait, really? I thought they were going to an open house. No.
They were, but I don't know how far they live.
Also, there's a storm going on, so that could have contributed to her maybe wanting to leave earlier.
Right. Realistically, that doesn't prove much to me because I don't know what she was feeling. Now, Felton disputes that she had any involvement in her daughter's disappearance. She vehemently defended herself against the polygraph results. She says that I couldn't tell you why, she said. They measure changes in your body, and when your daughter has gone missing and they strap you up to things, I can't imagine anyone's body not reacting. Now, since polygraph tests don't generally hold up in court, as there are no solid evidence connecting Felton to her daughter's disappearance, she was never charged. Even now, 30 years after Leigh Occhi vanished, police have true suspects. Donald Occhi still believes that Vicky knows something. In his interview with Anthony Wayne, he explained that Felton was a trained interrogator for the U.S. Army. I had my concerns, he said, of law enforcement's handling of the case. I don't think they had dealt with someone with Vicky's intelligence before. She was a trained interrogator. She knew how to act regarding questioning. He doesn't believe there would have been time for someone to come to the house, kill Leigh, hide any weapons, and clean up the blood in the bathroom in less than an hour. His theory is that Vicky killed Leigh the night before and lied to law enforcement about the entire timeline. On September 4th of 1992, a worker at a McDonald's in Boonville told law enforcement that they had seen a girl resembling Leigh in a car in a restaurant drive-thru. However, the child in question was determined to have been someone else.
I just want to ask, they have not found Leigh's body at this point, right?
Correct.
That's interesting. And it makes it so hard to know what actually happened.
On September 9 of 1992, 8 days after Leigh went missing, her eyeglasses were mailed to her home in an envelope addressed to her ex-stepfather.
Oh, that's interesting. Because that was the glasses she left with, right?
According to her mother, they were missing. The package was postmarked from Boonville, After this development, the FBI became involved in the search for Leigh and performed DNA testing on the stamps adhered to the envelope in which the glasses were mailed. However, it was determined they had been adhered with water rather than saliva.
That's a bummer.
Aguirre stated he felt the glasses were mailed as a ruse to distract detectives in their search efforts. There was no ransom letter or anything like that came with those glasses. It was just those glasses. You would think if it was an extra kidnapping, you would have expected a little bit more to come along with that. On November 9th of 1993, it was reported in the Jackson Clarion Ledger that a Monroe County coroner had positively confirmed via dental records that a human skull found in a soybean field was that of Leigh. Several days later, however, the identification was retracted. In this retraction, it was stated the state medical examiner would perform further forensic testing on the skull, which had been uncovered by a farmer in the ditch along the soybean field. It was subsequently determined that the skull belonged to a 27-year-old Pollyanna Sue Keith, a woman who had gone missing in March of 1993. The town rumor mill began churning. Classmates remembered that Leigh had previously shown up to school covered in bruises,
Wow.
though she attributed them to horseback riding. According to Stories of the Unsolved, one of Leigh's friends recalled she had seen her eating berries on the school playground and warned her they may be poisonous. Leigh responded that she didn't care and that maybe she wanted to die.
Whoa, that's pretty heavy for a young child.
Leigh later said that she was joking, but the comment still stuck with her friend.
Interesting, but also like nothing that's like definitive.
It seems like it
hearsay.
could be signs or hints potentially, but not definitive.
There's also no evidence that it even happened too. So it's like,
And I don't know. Maybe she was a jokester. Like she had dark humor.
maybe. She's 13. She's a teenager technically. So
Have any of her friends ever said that she confided in them about being abused by somebody or anything of that sort?
From my research, I'm unaware of anything else. I don't know if the police know something and have not shared it. But if there is, it must not be enough of material to convict someone of some crime.
Do we know how much blood she lost?
The way I read it, a lot of blood.
Because I almost wonder, why do they take her? Why then would she take some clothing and a sleeping bag? Or why would somebody force her to take that? I guess to make it look like a runaway, but at that point, losing that much blood, how can she look like a runaway? I was just wondering if she was being kidnapped, maybe.
Why would she be bleeding so much? I know if she hit her head bleeds a lot. It sounded like there was a lot of blood. A lot of blood. And if she was bleeding on her nightgown, was she fighting them? I mean, it's on the hallway, on the door.
why is the nightgown in the hamper? I will say when you said that was the weirdest thing for me because that's taking it and putting it back in its place.
Oh, it's dirty, so it has to get washed.
Exactly. Once an item's dirty, you put it in the hamper. It's a weird.
Something a mother would do.
That's what I'm saying. It's caring. Not necessarily caring, but it's more like clean. And women are typically more on the cleaner side and more like cautious of those things.
I don't know. There are some clues in this story, but you can't put the puzzle together. I would like them to do DNA testing, to be honest with you, on her stuff to see if anyone's DNA is on there.
I also think it's interesting that her dad was like, whichever man or woman did this, because I think a lot of people would initially assume it was a man. But for him to include woman as well makes me wonder if he is suspecting.
He said he's suspecting of Vicky.
Oh, he did?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Suspicion began to brew, and even Donald Occhi started to believe that Vicky Felton had something to do with his daughter's disappearance. Felton has openly stated that she believes a man named Oscar McKinley Mike Kearns, and it's the same name, he just has one long name, was responsible for her daughter's kidnapping. He was a Sunday school teacher at Holy Trinity Lutheran Church that Vicky and Leigh attended. Kearns also had horses at the same stable that Leigh frequented and asked the young girl to go riding with him once or twice. Felton argued that since there was no signs of forced entry, Leigh must have opened the door for whoever abducted her. And since she would never let a stranger inside, the perpetrator had to be someone she knew. Vicky claims were bolstered by the fact that just 9 months after Leigh went missing, Kearns abducted a 15-year-old girl in Memphis, Tennessee, whom he met through church.
Yeah.
He sexually assaulted her before dropping her off at school, and he pleaded guilty to rape when arrested. Kearns was sentenced to 8 years in prison, but he served only 4 and was released in October of 1997. Then, 2 years later, he kidnapped a married couple and raped the wife.
Oh my God.
Yes, he served an additional 20 years for his crimes. Kearns has continually refused to speak with the police and the FBI about Leigh Occhi's disappearance. Any secrets Oscar Kearns harbored went with him to his grave when he died in May of 2021.
What's interesting, though, is that with all these other situations and women, it seems as if though he didn't murder them.
I was going to say the same thing.
So he would have had to really go against his MO if he was going to kill Leigh and then not kill all these other women.
Or something happened and he wasn't planning on it.
That could be. I don't understand, though, if he was innocent, why he didn't tell the FBI he was.
True. Unless, because at this point he hadn't done anything.
No, they didn't talk to him till the crimes had happened. He did it 9 months after Leigh had disappeared. So it's not that much longer.
Oh, okay.
And probably that's when Vicky started saying it was him.
Did he hurt these women, like hit them, physically assault them, in addition to raping them?
Nothing from what I have read.
I ask because maybe his intention wasn't to kill Leigh, but he hits her over the head a little too hard and then ends up creating that gash and she dies out. And maybe that wasn't even his intention.
I have no idea. The thing is, though, you have to remember that he killed Leigh. He wasn't planning on killing her. Picked her up, put her in his car, let's say, and went back and cleaned it up, and all within 30 minutes?
Hypothetically, yeah, that's a very small timeline.
I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but if he went there to rape her and it became something more serious, that means he had to keep his cool and not panic and then figure out how to resolve the situation with Leigh. I'm not sure. I don't know what kind of person he is, but I mean, you have to really think about it.
Whoever was there cleaned the house. So I doubt if it was an accident, this guy's going to be able to like not thoroughly clean the house, but it seemed like it wasn't like a rush job.
I can't tell you for sure. I'm just going from what the sheriff says. I wasn't there, but they feel that someone appeared to want to clean the place. And I don't know why. If you have an accident, especially if you only have so much time, you don't know, unless he thought her mom left and won't come home and thought he could clean and then he heard the phone. I don't know.
Maybe.
Because it wasn't completely clean. Like,
No.
it seems like maybe
Right.
somebody started and then decided not to.
I don't know. I haven't seen pictures of the crime, of the house or anything.
Or somehow there's some sort of DNA maybe left. And then the only places that person cleaned is anywhere that could have been DNA. Like if there was like a fingerprint and they're like, okay, I can't leave that there. So they cleaned that area.
Listen, I think her nightgown should have DNA on it. Did she really take it off or did someone remove it and told her to dress up? We have no idea. But if someone tried to clean it with rags, they must have left something behind. I just don't know. And if they do search everything and they find lack of DNA, that makes the mom look worse, in my opinion, but I'm not sure.
Oh, because you're saying that they would have at least her DNA on it?
Her DNA will be on it, right?
Nice,
she
yeah.
lives in the house. It's her mom. But if they check everything and the only DNA they're finding is hers and Leigh's and no one else's, it's a good clue that maybe her mom was involved.
Yeah.
It's a lack of DNA. Despite numerous searches, Leigh's whereabouts remain unknown. Against the backdrop of Hurricane Andrew and the upcoming 1992 election, Leigh's case got crowded out of the news cycle. As those closest to Leigh, including her mother, Vicky Felton, and her stepfather, Barney Yarborough, were cleared of wrongdoing, police ran out of suspects to question. Her case has received media coverage from Nancy Grace in 2020. Leigh Occhi's case may have gone cold, but it's not closed. She's still classified as a missing person. At the time of her disappearance, Leigh was slender with bluish-green eyes and blonde hair. If you have any information regarding her whereabouts or case, please contact Tupelo Police or the Crime Stoppers of Northeast Mississippi. So does anyone have any questions or anything?
No questions. It's hard to know what exactly happened in this scenario. It's interesting because this happened in the 90s, which is like right on the cusp when DNA was starting to become more prevalent. Yeah. Obviously, fingerprints were something that police used to solve crimes, but I don't think blood was used at this point to solve crimes, was it?
Only to find out that she was type O. That the blood was type O, which they know Leigh was bleeding.
Are you talking about like blood splatter or what?
You're saying if they took a sample of the blood to see if there's anyone else's blood in there except for hers?
Yes.
I don't think they did that back then. I am not sure what they have done today or if they even have done anything else. The FBI did get involved back then, but then again, DNA was not as advanced as it is now.
Are they still actively working on solving this case, or is it kind of let it run cold?
I think at this point it's a little cold.
Do you know if they have tested the nightgown for DNA or anything other than that?
There's no information out on that at all.
So it could be yes or no. We don't know. There's just nothing.
There is nothing at the moment.
Okay.
I'm not even sure if anyone's pushing for more work to be done on this case. But don't forget, a lot of these police departments don't have money for these DNA testings.
Yeah.
And when they do get money allocated out to them from the federal government, some of them start with some cases. I don't know where this police station stands as far as getting federal funding or doing any more DNA testing.
So basically, the mother comes home. There's blood everywhere. Her daughter's missing. No sign of a forced entry.
No one sees or hears anything.
No DNA, at least nothing that they took and we know about.
As far as we know about.
No body ever discovered.
Correct.
And then the nightgown was put in the hamper. There's a lot of blood, and it was like as if she bled from her head to her nightgown.
That's what they are making an assumption on,
which would make sense with when you hit your head, you bleed a lot. Maybe it wasn't as bad, and maybe she was still alive. I don't know. Essentially, she died. Whoever took her body, took her clothes, shoes, glasses, right?
Yes. If she wasn't dead, they made her change because she had her nightgown on, supposedly. They made her change into shorts. And I do find that Vicky knows that a special pair of underwear she got for her birthday is missing.
How I interpreted that was she just grabbed like the most recent underwear or just grabbed some underwear, and I just assumed the mother was able to notice that one gone is because she just recently bought it. So maybe it was fresh in her head. I don't know.
I don't know. Underwear is not probably the thing I'd notice missing. I would notice shorts, socks. She doesn't mention she was wearing a shirt. She just mentions a shorts and shoes. She doesn't mention socks. She doesn't mention jacket. It's just kind of interesting, this stuff. Now, I don't know if they're just not releasing everything.
Yeah.
I have no idea. It's choppy a little bit, actually.
Basically, her glasses get mailed to her.
To her
stepfather. And then and that's it.
Yes.
That we know of.
Right.
I find it interesting that it was mailed to her stepfather.
The police think it was to distract them, to put focus on the stepfather, because they claim there was a rumor that he was abusive. Whether he is or wasn't doesn't really matter because he had a very strong alibi and he passed the lie detector test. He was somewhere where he had enough of an alibi to say it wasn't him.
I could get why people might say, oh, the glasses went to his house, so let's look at him. But to me, it would make no sense that it would be him, because if you're the killer, you're not going to send it to yourself. I think that would be a little weird.
Oh, I can see some people doing that.
I can see it being like if the mother did it and the mother sends it to herself, but why the stepfather?
I can see the mother doing that because she is separated from him, going to go through a divorce,
Right.
make it look worse for him.
And that's what I'm saying. I can also see someone just sending it to someone else as a way of putting attention on them and just shifting the focus away from other people towards the stepfather.
So where did she get these glasses? Is she just hiding them somewhere in the house? If, hypothetically, if we're going to say that she's the one who sent these glasses.
The mom?
Yes. Or is she returning to wherever her, hypothetically, her daughter's body is?
She could have sent it out that day. I don't know.
She could have if she left early and threw him in the post office in Bonneville.
Was there like a date where it was?
I didn't see anything on date, just where it came from.
Easier to do stuff like this and get away with it back then.
Yeah.
Not the same amount of technology and monitoring we have now.
The other thing is, if it was this Oscar guy, why would he care to mail back the glasses and to her stepfather?
That's what I'm saying. It just doesn't make sense. The stepfather is just so weird.
Unless he knew a story about Leigh when they went horseback riding, she had said something to him. Maybe she didn't like her stepfather. If there was something like that, maybe. If he didn't know anything, why wouldn't he just send it to the parents of Leigh?
To me, that seems like someone who wants to put suspicion on someone else, but in reality, like, I feel like it does the opposite. It takes the suspicion away from the stepdad.
It did take the
attention.
suspicion away from the stepdad after he was proven that it wasn't him.
Right.
Okay, they actually checked it out.
So he was completely cleared before he got the glasses, right?
No, I don't think it happened that way because
Okay.
it takes a while to
Okay.
go through.
That's right. The glasses were pretty
Yeah.
early on.
The glasses came 8 days after Leigh went missing.
But that's pretty quick.
It could have been her mom.
Yeah.
8 days, that's more than enough time for her to drive around, drop him off, and come back.
A person would send it to the stepfather because the stepdad, he's an easy scapegoat, but I just don't feel like if the stepdad did it, I don't think he would send it to himself. I think that would be stupid and risky, which is why I think because he got it, it means someone sent it to him, but not necessarily just given the context of the case.
If it wasn't Oscar, I wish he would have at least told the police it wasn't him
Yeah.
and proved it. But the mother doesn't seem free of guilt at this point. I don't know if she is guilty or not, but you cannot cross her off as a suspect.
But what would be her motive?
She just
we
got
know?
angry, I think, and hit her heart too hard.
And it was
That's
just-
what I'm thinking. It was
yeah.
an accident. I'm not
Right.
thinking it was on purpose.
That's sad.
I don't know what kind of person her mother was, but it could have been an accident and she panicked.
Did her ex-husband ever describe her, who she was as a mother?
I have no idea. There is nothing. I would hope the FBI and the police have this information.
Yeah.
They have not revealed anything.
Okay.
This is the first time I'm hearing of this case.
Yeah, same here. This is really interesting.
I was going through it. I'm like, okay, they can solve this, right? I don't know. It just seems
Yeah.
like it's a little bit more difficult than I thought at first when I started reading about it.
Oh, I'm looking her up. She's really pretty. She
May-
almost looks like a young Drew Barrymore in some ways.
She is pretty.
Yeah. Maybe with probably DNA, if technology continues to advance and maybe there's something in the archives and the evidence that they could test her genealogy or something.
I hope they've saved everything. And maybe if they get funding, they can give it to the FBI to do some more testing and see if they have more DNA or something on her clothing. I don't know. I want to thank you for listening to us this week. We love our listeners, and because of you, we do this podcast. Your help and engagement really helps the podcast grow. If you enjoyed this episode, please text a friend and family member to listen to our podcast. Until next time, make sure you stay on the eerie side.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Be safe.